Good day, grade nines. I hope you're all fine and well today. Today you're going to do that small class test. So I hope you got pen and paper ready. When you're going to listen to the class test, this will be a pre-recording because we're having power failure this afternoon. So I have done it earlier today. They are working on some of the lines here. All right, so you guys are just going to do the class test, and then later on we're also going to mark the class test. So if we start to look at it, all right, there is the first slide. There are two slides with questions. So the first one is mention the three economic sectors and a short description of each one. Number two, what is the difference between savings and investment? Number three, describe source documents. So I want a definition there. Number four, redraw the receipt and complete the following transaction on the receipt. And the transaction is the owner invested capital in the business of 50,000 on the 3rd of March 2020, and you write out the receipt. And then I've given you an example of a receipt there. So you guys need to copy that receipt, okay? And then you need to take that transaction and complete it on the receipt. Okay, I will come back now to this slide and then I will stick a few minutes on this one. I just want to show you, and there's the last question, number 5. Complete the trial balance with the following information: capital, vehicles, equipment, salaries, water and electricity, wages, rent income, services rendered, and telephone. And then I give you the format for the trial balance. So you need to draw up the 3 columns where you're going to write in the accounts and in which column the amount must be, either in the debit column or in the credit column. And that will be your test out of 25. Right, so let me go back to that slide. Right, I'm going to keep this slide on for quite a few minutes. So on a piece of paper, you write the answers down, only the number and the answers, except number 4, you roughly need to redraw a receipt there for you. So I will give you about 10 minutes on this one, people. All right, so if it's quiet, don't worry. I will come back and I will talk to you later on. Right, I'm still on this side while you're busy writing your test. Um, I will still give you about 2 minutes or so on this slide. Right, before we go on to the next slide, so again, number one, mention the three economic sectors and just a short description. Number two, what's the difference between savings and investment? Number three is a definition of source documents. And number four, you need to redraw the receipt and then complete that transaction onto that receipt. Right, I hope that you all got that one. Remember, we are going to mark it later on, and then you will see the question again with the answer. Right, so there's the second slide. Number 5, where you need to complete the trial balance. Remember to first draw the format, the 3 columns with accounts, debit and credit. And then I'm going to give you a few minutes that you complete the trial balance then. I'm still on the side, people, and I'm still going to give you about 2-3 minutes. Right, so I hope you guys are finished by now. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to mark your class test now. So on the next slide, I'm going to show you the answers and I will indicate to you how the marks is going to be. And the total of the test is out of 25. Okay, so you need to listen clearly. Right, so the first question was mention the 3 economic sectors and a short description of each one. So by mentioning it, it is the primary, the secondary, and the tertiary sectors, and that is 1 mark each. So there are already 3 marks. So just for mentioning it, primary, secondary, tertiary, 3 marks. Right, then we start with the primary sector. Now, for a short description, if you have said it is raw materials extracted, or you mention something about natural resources, for example, water, food, air, etc., then another mark for your description. The secondary sector, then you should have said something about produce raw materials into a final product in a fabric, or if you have maybe given an example here to say, for instance, you take the primary sectors, let's say wool from the sheep, and then you're going to produce a jersey of it, then that forms part of the secondary sector, then also mark for you. And then the tertiary sector distributes products to wholesalers, shops, retailers, etc. Another mark there. So the first question is counting 6 marks. 3 marks for mentioning the 3 sectors, and then another 3 marks for each of them, the description. Question 2, what is the difference between savings and investment? That is going to be 1 mark each. So savings is set a certain amount away for future use, so you don't touch it. So there's 1 mark. And investment in something like buying, for instance, an asset like a vehicle or a house, etc. Another mark there. So what is the difference between savings and investment? Savings set a certain amount away for future. Investment is when you invest in something, when you buy something like an asset. Question 3, describe source documents. Okay, 2 marks here, listen clearly. If you have set a document like a receipt, invoice, check, etc., indicating a business transaction, 1 mark. Indicating the date, the amount, the name of the person involved, signature, etc., another mark. So describe source documents, it's going to count 2 marks. You can give 1 mark either if you have given examples like receipt, invoice, check, etc., or if you have said indicating a business transaction. And then the second mark must be where you say the date will be on there, the name of the person involved, the amount, etc. Question 4, there you should have redraw the receipt and then you must complete the transaction. Let's read the transaction again. The owner invested capital in the business of 50,000 on the 3rd of March 2020. You write out the receipt. Okay, I couldn't complete it on the receipt, so you need to listen clearly here because the receipt is going to count 6 marks. Right, so if you have written the date in there, and the date must be 3 March 2020, 1 mark. Received from, okay, the owner, another mark. I didn't give you a name of the owner, so you must write there, received from the owner. The sum of, and in words you need to write out 50,000 rand for another mark. So in words, 50,000 rand. And then just next to it in that smaller type of column, you must write 50,000 in figures for another mark. 50,000 in figures for another mark. For what is it? It is for capital. So another mark, capital. And then you wrote out the receipt, so you need to sign there with thanks for another mark, and that will give you 6 marks in total. All right, so I'm going to repeat that one. If you have written the date in, 1 mark. Received from the owner, another mark. The sum of, in words, you write out 50,000 rand, another mark. Then you need to write the amount 50,000 in figures next to it, another mark. For what is it? For capital, another mark. And then you need to sign the receipt, and there's your 6 marks. Right? Then we're going to get to the trial balance. Okay, on the trial balance, everything, the whole line must be correct to get 1 mark. So, like for instance, if we take the first one, capital, then the account capital plus the amount of 400,000 in the credit column. So absolutely the whole line must be correct to get 1 mark. Right, I've given you the list. Let's start from the top. Capital 400,000. Remember, think of Lady Adelette, the C for capital, so it must be in the credit column. Vehicles, 200,000 in the debit column. Why? Because vehicles is an asset. Assets is always in the debit column. And so the same with equipment, 250,000. Okay, equipment also an asset, so also in the debit column. Salaries, 8,000 rand in the debit column. Why? Because you pay the salaries, so it's an expense. And think again of Lady Adelette, expenses is always on the debit side. And so the same with water and electricity, 2,000 rand, debit side. Why? Because water and electricity is an asset. And so also wages of 2,000 Rand in the debit column, because wages is an expense. Expenses always on the debit side. Next one, a rent income of 8,000 Rand. Okay, in the credit column. Why? Because rent income is an income, and income are always on the credit side. Think again of Lady A, the lick, the I for income, credit side. And now you must listen clearly, because I've written the next one, sorry guys, so wrong in. Services rendered of 60,000. What is service rendered? It's an income, so it must be on the credit side, and not like I've written in there 50,000, it must be 60,000. Okay, so please take care of this one. Services rendered, the amount must be 60,000 in the credit column. Why? Because service rendered is an income, and income is always on the credit side. And then telephone, 6,000 Rand, right in the debit column. Why? Because you pay the telephone bill, it's an expense, and expenses must always be on the debit side. So remember, with the trial balance, it's 1 mark for the whole line must be correct. So the whole trial balance should then count 9 marks. So if you add up everything from the previous slide till now, then you add up your marks, and then you will get a mark out of 25. So quickly, I will stick a few seconds on this slide so you can finish marking, add it up, get your total out of 25, and see how you have done. Right, I hope you didn't do too bad. Right, and now also on that note, you guys need to listen clearly. I've started to mark your assessments of last week. Some of you is not doing bad, but some of you people, actually a lot of you, it is quite a train smash, especially the accounting part. The economics part is actually quite well, no problem with that, that of the trade unions and all those things, but the accounting part is terrible at this stage. You don't write the correct transaction in the correct journal, or if you have it in the correct journal, you don't write it correctly into the journal. The general ledger accounts, all those things, they are quite still a mess at the end of the day. Okay, so what we are going to do is the following. I'm not going further on marking that assessments, because as I said, it's not going well at all. Okay, so we're going to leave them. But what we're going to do is, from next week and Monday on, we are going to concentrate on the accounting. Okay, and we're going to redo everything. If it means we need to start from scratch with accounting, then we do it. Okay, and we're going to redo and redo and redo exercises so you can get used to it. So even if we're just sitting next week and the whole week we're just doing journals, then we just do journals. But it's important that you need now to concentrate from next week, that you need to ask questions if you don't understand, and make sure you have it. And then sometime along the line, then we will do a reassessment that will count at the end of the day. Still next week, you also have that smaller EMS test that is scheduled for you guys here around the 28th. That still goes to continue, but that is a short test. It is an easy one, but so that you're still going to do, that is still going to count. But then, as I said, we're going to start retaking the accounting from Monday and start to concentrate on that. Right. People, after that for today, then that will be it. I hope you have done not too bad in your class test. And guys, sorry again that I cannot really feel to chat with you because of the pre-recording. But otherwise, guys, you must have a wonderful weekend. Get rest, stay safe, and then I will talk to you guys on Monday again. All right. Goodbye. Have a wonderful weekend.